Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to read an article titled, Sorry Ladies, but Men Do Not Owe You Marriage. And guys, this article is actually written by a woman. In this whole article, she's going to go into this whole thing, pretty much stating that, just like the title says, guys don't owe you anything. And she's also going to point out how obviously it's a bit of a raw deal for a lot of guys. And so this notion that the gals are entitled to a guy and blah, 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 is a bunch of nonsense. And she's obviously someone that knows, who's probably seen maybe perhaps, I'm speculating here, through her own experience, maybe seeing in her own family or other families that just, obviously nowadays it doesn't work out very well. We know the divorce rate over 60% in this country, and a lot of guys are happier on their own. And also, a lot of women are actually happier on their own. You know, I know some women. I got one in particular who's a client of mine, and she's been married twice. She's in her early 50s. She'll never do it again because she realizes it just doesn't work out. It runs its course. It just doesn't work. And she's happy on her own. She's enjoying her life. End of story. Never happier. And I know another one as well. Same deal. So it's very interesting to get this take on this because more and more people are waking up to realize just as things are nowadays in this world and people are living longer, people could start off, let's just say you have a couple in their 20s and they actually have a genuinely good thing going. And I'm being, it happens occasionally. And everything's aligned, their goals, their values, their interests, and they get hitched. And let's just say they have a good marriage. Let's just say hypothetically. Well, eventually over time, people tend to change. Their values change, their interests change, a lot of things. And they end up not really being they end up becoming strangers to one another. And then just bored, not attracted to each other and things like that. And it's just, why spend your days with someone that you actually have nothing in common with, nothing to talk about, not all in love with, not hooking up with, right? A lot of people just stay in that and they're unhappy for the kids or because they do it for cultural reasons or religious reasons. It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people. So anyhow, I'm going to go through this because, like I said before, it's interesting hearing this take from a woman. But also, when I finished this article for fun, I found another article from obviously a religious online newspaper, whatever you want to call it, trying to convince men the benefits of getting married. And I'm going to tear it apart because there's so much BS in there. And obviously it's from a religious organization. They obviously promote marriage. And it's just like there's no guy that's going to hear this when I read this that's going to buy into any of it. And it's pretty funny. Pretty brief, but funny. So her article starts off, again, it says, Sorry ladies, but men do not owe you marriage. And this article begins with a quote from Woody Allen, and says, there are 3 rings involved with marriage: the engagement ring, the wedding ring, and the suffering. She starts off, I witnessed firsthand the disdain some ladies have for single men who refuse to settle down and permanently commit, especially in the online arena. Videos are being shared, social media groups are created in droves, and women all over the world are engaging in conversations surrounding the men who refuse to get married, either within a certain time frame or they're foregoing becoming husbands altogether. No surprise here. More and more guys are waking up to realize it's not worth it for many, many reasons, but one especially how it's a raw deal for men, generally speaking, if they get divorced, which more than half the time they do. She says, I observed quietly as I was never informed that men owed women the dreams they've been conditioned to desire since childhood. That's right, we don't owe anyone anything. We all know there is a vast discrepancy in how little boys and girls are raised, but for some reason, grown women believe that men are supposed to automatically get with their program, which includes willingly abandoning their lives of singleness to become family men, all without complaining or missing their autonomy. Yeah, like, we're supposed to do it, so, and a lot of times the women want the guys to pretty much drop hanging out with their buddies because they see the single friends as a threat, their hobbies, their interests. You guys get the point. And a lot of guys foolishly go along with this. They're like, oh, God, happy wife, happy life, which is complete nonsense. Happy life, no wife. From boyhood, men are taught to value and prioritize their independence much more than women. In addition, I believe that men hold less guilt when it comes to putting themselves first, even if it means that the women who are ready to change their last names have to wait a bit longer for the man folk to catch up. As a sovereign woman who prized her own freedom above everything else, I do understand and even respect men who don't allow anyone to determine when or if they should be husbands. even if the person is being frustrated and getting the short end of the stick are indeed women. Well, look, here's the deal. There are plenty of dudes out there, whether they want to admit it or not, that do in fact want to get married, have a wife, have a family. The big part's usually having a family. They want to have kids, especially a son. And they will go ahead and do this, but there are also guys out there that just have zero interest. And no surprise here, those are usually the guys that the women chase after and want them to settle down and commit. And they get mad at those guys when they spend years with I've known women that have been in relationship with guys that are in no way, shape, or form marriage material. Their friends tell them the guy's not marriage material. Their coworkers tell them that. Lots of people, their family tells them that, and they still stay with these types of guys, hoping that the guy will change their minds. And as time goes on, the gal's getting older and older, and the guy's not settling. And eventually, she throws her hands in the air and says, "That's it, I'm done," is angry and blames him for wasting her time when everybody told her he's not that guy. In fact, a lot of times that guy will tell her, "I'm not interested in marriage," and she stays on, and the guy gets blamed. There are just guys out there who are not interested, and those numbers are rising. So you can't make those guys about the bad guy. Now, on the other hand, if the girl's with a guy and he's deliberately leading her on, making her think that he will commit, and she's wasting the years of her life, then it's understandable a bit. I'm fair here. She goes on, it was very late into the night when I decided to click on a YouTube video where two men were exploring the beautiful city of Mérida in Yucatan, Mexico. Neither of them seemed to be in a committed relationship, and I thought it was wonderful that the two guy friends made the decision to pack their bags and travel just for the sake of exploration and fun, all while documenting their adventures, which can result in a paycheck from the second most popular search engine after Google. Getting paid to travel sounds awesome, don't you think? In other words, she thinks it's cool. These guys are free to come and go as they please. And obviously you can tell here she wants to have that freedom too. Because society also does steer women in the way that they got to get married, got to settle down, got to do that. Guys, you got one chance at life. You got to do what makes you happy and do what's best for you. I know you guys, there are guys here watching me from different parts of the world where in your culture and religion, no, you're getting married by, your mid-20s. Or in some case, early 20s. But generally speaking, for a lot of guys that have gone down that path and have done what they were supposedly expected to do and were unhappy about it, they're older and maybe watching these videos and saying, no, I should have done this, this, and this, instead of doing what I was expected to do. And you can see she's obviously thinks the same thing for guys, but also herself. There's some self-interest going here in this article. Not going to discount that. She says, "This is the type of lifestyle that I desire for more women." See? The freedom to travel at a moment's notice, form deeper friendships, date whomever they please, and explore interests and hobbies outside of worrying about what men are up to all hours of the day and night. Instead, I'm forced to sit back and get comfortable, grab a snack, and watch how some ladies are losing their shit over men who pride themselves on making fun of the women who are so desperate to be with them. Well, you know what? A lot of times dudes do that, and it can be kind of cruel. But other times it's certainly warranted given what they've been through. Especially when these are the types of gals that wouldn't give them the time of day, and now they just kept chasing after the bad boys and ditching the good guys, because it's mostly good guys out there. And now they're the same ones complaining that they're alone. There's no good men out there and things like that. And so the guys are like, ha ha ha, you brought this on yourself. I'm the type of guy you dumped for these other guys that we knew darn well would never work out. And now I have to feel bad for you for crying and all that because you don't have a family. That's why a lot of guys are, as she describes, maybe making fun of. She says, "I do feel for these ladies, as I can imagine these dating for the sole purpose of commitment feels like they are in a waiting room, thumbing through magazines and twiddling their thumbs, trying to kill time before they finally see the doctor." Yeah, well, guess what? That I absolutely disagree with, because by a certain age, women can tell exactly who is the bad boy type and who's the nice guy type. Who do they chase? The bad boy types. Meanwhile, there's a vast percentage of guys out there fall into the nice guy category, or somewhere in the middle between nice guy and bad boy, that they could have good relationships with, who's not going to cheat on them, who's not going to hurt them, disappoint them. They don't want those guys until the time is running out. That's why I don't want to hear complaining when they chase after the types of guys that we all know. There's no way in hell they're ever going to settle down. I'm sure every one of you guys watching this, wherever you are in the world, knows at least one gal, whether it's in your family, coworker, friend, acquaintance, what a friend of a friend, that's like that. They're singing the blues and whining and crying and carrying on because they're in their 30s or 40s and they're not where they wanted to be. And yet they were the same ones that had limitless opportunities when they were younger and broke a lot of guys' hearts or maybe even cheated. And now people are supposed to feel bad for them? No. She says, "Well, I do not desire to get hitched. I know that if I really wanted to walk down the aisle and say I do, I would have to manage my expectations of the masculine with more maturity. I believe that there is an exclusive, select group of men who are longing to be husbands and are truly ready to commit to one woman on a long-term basis." There's plenty of dudes out there like that. But unfortunately, a lot of them are unfortunately clueless as to how things are. And then there's also ones that are aware of how things really are, but they want a son, or they want a family, or something like that, or hoping for the best. The rest either view marriage as a surefire way to receive the legacy of children, ding, 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 a live-in maid, oh for goodness sake, home-cooked meals, a clean home, and on-demand sex. Or they're not particularly passionate about the beliefs of obtaining that marriage license, but they will find a wife anyway, because that's just what you do by a certain age, or else you're not a real man. Yeah, right. And she's not saying this. She's being sarcastic here about religious and societal expectations. You're not a real man unless you get married by a certain age. And again, it depends on where you live in this world. As a woman, managing expectations early on means that you aren't as disappointed when things don't go your way in the time frame that you desired. The truth is that men do not owe women marriage within a few months or years of dating. Absolutely. Or even at all. They can be bachelors and even gigolos for as long as they please. When you set to achieve the goal of marriage, you're involving another human being. This means that everything isn't always going to occur on your terms. Patience is needed. Absolutely. While there are studies that show how married men are healthier and live longer, this information is obviously not enough to persuade the fellows to settle down quickly. That's a bunch of bullshit. Healthier and happier? No. No. They may be healthier in the sense that perhaps their wives were nagging the hell out of them to go to the gym and exercise and lose some weight because their doctor said that, you better lose 30 pounds or you're going to, go to an early grave, and she doesn't want to be left alone with the kids. And the happier part, come on, who's being surveyed here? Sure, there are some guys that are married that are happy. Then you got a bunch that maybe are just content. They're kind of living as roommates. They're friendly, but there's no romance there. And then you get the rest. But this whole thing that the majority are healthier and happier and all that, come on. I would implore you to quit holding men mentally hostage as a means to achieve your fantasy of wearing that white gown and veil. You will be a missus in due time. Yeah, exactly. Generally speaking, I don't care who it is, they eventually want to walk down the aisle one time. Now, a few comments I'm going to read, they're all from guys, and they're pretty dead on here. Then I'm going to get into the article real quick about this trying to persuade guys the benefits of getting married. You're going to get a good laugh there. But real quick, a few comments. One guy says, I can agree with this. Generally, men hate marriage. The whole concept of it. Your comment, though suggesting men benefit from it, is very far from the truth, and it's just a stereotype. That's what I said. Men hate marriage, period. They are pressured into it by their partner, usually end up resenting them and having affairs. The good thing, women are now against marriage too. Another guy says, 100%. Men also don't owe women romance or entertainment. I'm not saying I wouldn't do those things, but the blatant expectation takes my ability to be genuine with those sentiments. I am the only one who gets to decide when I will be romantic, etc. You don't get to decide for me, but you can make a good case by being worth the effort. There you go. And last, the guy says, yes, everybody can see what these gals are angry about in social media, but most modern gals are not wife material anyways. They shouldn't be complaining and not being part of the old tradition when nothing about them is traditional. Yeah, nowadays, the gals in their 20s and 30s, the ones that are on Instagram all the time or OnlyFans, and that's not everybody, but the numbers are startling. Why could they get these old-fashioned institutions like marriage and relationships when they are hardly at all old-fashioned values? They're non-existent. Now, real quick, it's not going to take too long. Here's the article trying to convince guys the benefits of getting married. The title is, What's in it for men? The benefits of getting married. While the phrase ball and chain is still sometimes tossed around by those who view marriage as a burden, a recent study shows that men who tie the knot reap a plethora of benefits. It says, indeed, the benefits of marriage for men are substantial by every conceivable measure, including money, a better sex life, and significantly better physical and mental health, noted a recent study released by the Institute for Family Studies. What a load of crap. Who are they surveying here? Come on, are they surveying guys that have their wives sitting right next to them, and they're answering in a way that they obviously don't want to anger her? Let's break this down real quick. They benefit, including money. Okay, they may live in the same house and split the mortgage or rent, the electric bill, the cable bill, and all that. But we all know darn well that by and large, men are far better in terms of spending money. Far better in terms of saving money than the gals are. The wives are usually the ones that want to be in a bigger house than what the husband usually wants because, there's a lot of competition. So there's more money being spent. A lot of times they want their kids to be in better schools, sometimes private schools, whether they can afford or not, when the husband would send them to public school. There's money being spent. Vacations, cars, handbags, purses, high heels, shoes, you name it. Okay, so yeah, they may be saving money, like splitting the bills, but it's going somewhere else. Now, this is not all the time, but you get my point here. Another thing, a better SEX life. Who are they surveying here? Most guys, once they say I do and tie the knot, if they were hooking up multiple times a week, that number starts to go down big time. And not just because of kids, because eventually it runs its course. Look at the numbers. Anybody watching this that's been married knows darn well it's eventually going to fade. Another one, significantly better physical and mental health. Physical and mental health. Most guys that are married nowadays are usually out of shape because typically junk food, processed food, and alcohol is an outlet for stress. Okay? And so, while eventually a lot of times, I'm a personal trainer, and I used to work in gyms before I owned my own business, guys, and I would always notice a trend where in the teenage years, it was mostly guys in the gym working out with the weights and all that. Girls do it now more than ever, but still it's majority guys. During the college years, there's more girls there, but still majority guys. But in the 30s and 40s, the typical age range when guys are married, the number of guys in a typical gym, I've noticed by gyms I worked at, gyms I've been members of, the guys going takes a nosedive, and the majority are women because the women want to keep exercising and staying relatively in shape, while the guys just throw up their hands. Now, obviously, they could be working and busy, but the point is a lot of them just throw in the towel once they get that ring on the girl's finger, and that's it. However, the numbers start rising for the guys coming back to the gym when they're 50s, because usually that's when the doctors say, you better lose 30 pounds, you better get exercise, or you're going to die in 10 years. And the wife's like, you're not going to leave me alone with these kids, so get to the gym. So maybe in that sense, some are healthier, but nowadays, it's the single guys that are a lot more in better shape and health because they're on their own. And they obviously, a lot of guys date and hook up and they want to look their best, or just simply there's more of a push towards exercise and health nowadays compared to marriage. So get the hell out of here. And mental health, the stress and anxiety that goes along with marriage, where most of them don't work out anyway. I know I'm going on here, guys, but I got to break this down and call BS where it is. And it goes on, there's no doubt that marriage requires sacrifices, but it turns out that these sacrifices pay for themselves and more. Oh, really? The study, titled Man and Marriage, Debunking the Ball and Chain Myth, was authored by researchers W. Bradford Wilcox and Nicholas W. Wolfinger. Ultimately, the data indicate that men reap numerous benefits from marriage, including reports of boosted happiness, well-being. However, research showed that despite these benefits, many men still attach a negative stigma with marriage, as seen in the declining marriage rate, particularly among young men. Because the young men are educating themselves. The young men have seen their parents split up and how nasty it was before they even got married. And after. Uncles, friends, parents of friends, things like that. And getting raked over the coals in the divorce process. So this whole negative stigma, well, if it's warranted, it's warranted. And again, I'm not saying all are like that. For anybody that has an issue with that. But a hell of a lot are. Otherwise, somebody would end up in divorce. According to the research, married men earn around 10 to 40% more money than single men do. Married men also are less likely to be fired and tend to be more successful in business, the study found. Well, they probably earn more money because they realize, okay, I got kids now, so I really got to push to make more money to help for those kids, and because my wife is spending everything I make. So, of course, they're pushing harder, while the guys that may be single, they don't have to work, they don't have to earn as much because they are in control of the finances and they're not going to piss away on BS. They may make less, but they're actually putting away more. For the party says married men are less likely to be fired, well, because they're going to behave themselves on the job because they have dependents. And more successful in business, again, they're going to push to take care of their families. Married men typically end up with a lot more money than their single peers, the study said, noting that even men who were married and divorced fare better career-wise than single men. Well, also, the single men tend to be, obviously, most of the time in their late teens and 20s or 30s. Well, they could be asking the single guys to be surveyed, or they're in their 20s, and the married men are obviously older, so of course they're going to do better because they're older, more experienced, and they're going to make more money. In addition to career benefits, married men also find that sex is more emotionally and physically pleasurable than their unmarried peers. Yeah, sure. I don't need to elaborate on that. According to the National Health and Social Life Survey, 51% of married men were extremely satisfied with their sex lives, while only 39% of cohabiting men and 36% of single men could say the same. I find that extremely hard to believe. I'd like to know, again, who they're surveying for these statistics. Research has shown that men are more S-word satisfied when they are in a lasting relationship because both spouses are making long-term investments in intimacy. Well, some do. But it seems to me, in my almost 44 years on this planet, that's not the case. Marriage is also good for men's physical and mental health. Really? For example, men who are married and stay married have a longer lifespan, outliving unmarried men by about 10 years. Well, also, when was this research done? Because it could be argued that maybe unmarried guys are a little more, take more risks, so to speak, than married guys. So maybe. What accounts for these surprise findings? Simply put, the companionship, the support, and even the nagging that men get from their wives in marriage translate into better physical health, that study says. I don't buy that at all. Nagging is not going to make any guy more physically and mentally, emotionally healthier. It's going to make him the exact opposite. That's why these guys go bald, because they're losing their hair from all the nagging about the toilet seat being left up or not mowing the lawn or something like that. The relationship between spouses also boosts social and emotional health. Married men report less depression and more overall happiness than single men. Again, yeah, sure. The General Social Survey found that 43% of married men ages 20 to 39 were very happy with their lives, while only 20% of bachelors said the same. Not anymore, if that's even true. And again, are they surveying the guys with their wives sitting right next to them? Ultimately, the research is proving that marriage offers various advantages for men, noting that the marriage confers enormous benefits for men's wallets, for their sex life, and for their physical and mental health. Well, I went through that, and I called BS in every single one of those. Yet many men are not saying I do because of negative stigma surrounding the institution or because of the perceived toll marriage would take on the man's freedom. Well, that's about the most accurate thing I've read thus far in this article. Many men remain ignorant of the multitude of marital benefits, the study authors said. Sure. We believe these negative perceptions need to change. The first step is to ensuring that the next generation knows the truth about marriage, the study said. The truth? Well, I here am doing the truth, as well as other channels and other guys helping guys out so they don't. So this whole thing that the negative thing's got to change. Well, the negative thing is changing. A lot of guys like me, and I'm not the only game in town talk about these things, and believe me, we're changing things, but not what they expect, because these stereotypes are pretty dead on. And anybody watching this, and you know who you are, that either are married right now or been married, you know what I'm talking about is accurate. And what this article's saying, that the so-called research they have, is nonsense. But there are some exceptions, and anybody watching this, or anybody else that may watch it one day, they are in a great marriage. They're having a great time. They both love each other, in love with each other. She's loyal, he's loyal, they're having a good time, they're hooking up left and right, all that stuff. Cool, I'm seriously happy for you. Good. I hope they're more like that. But the reality is that's just not the case. And it doesn't make a difference whether it's here in the United States or anywhere else in the world. You just go online and look at the articles, stories, you name it. They're all the same. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. I thought you'd find that interesting. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Please, for you married guys, or you formerly married guys, let me know what you think. Let me know what they're talking about, all the benefits, as they describe, complete BS, or there's some truth to that. I'd like to know. I mean, be honest. I'd really like to hear it. This helps us all. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.